Hey guys, Mark from Modus here. Today we are looking at chest to wall. This is a handstand drill that is where you should spend most of your time in the beginning. I'm going to start by going over just some of the basic points, and later on we'll take a look at some of the details that you can really bring into your chest to wall to keep working on it over time. Chest to wall handstand starts to have a bit more demands on the strength of your shoulders, the range of motion of your shoulders, the health of your wrists. So make sure you've taken a look at our wrist prep. You can get your arms overhead decently without arching the back. And you've spent some time with the back body line drill and learned the hollow body position. A reminder on the hollow body position. We take the hips and tuck them into what's called posterior pelvic tilt. You have a tail, you tuck it between your legs. The ribs are pulled down, kind of like an ab crunch. So I've tucked my hips underneath and pulled my ribs down, and this is the hollow body position. In the chest to wall, it's important to pick a variation that you can do for at least 30 seconds and working up to 60 seconds. If you can't do it quite for 30 seconds, you're not going to be able to do many sets of this, and there's always a risk of coming down a bit early, out of control, and potentially having an injury. So make sure you pick a variation that you can do successfully for 30 seconds or more. The main two details I want you to remember: shoulders over hands and hollow body from shoulder to toe. Chest to wall is done walking in towards the wall and getting as close as you can while maintaining those 2 points. Shoulders are over hands and I have hollow body from shoulder to toe. I don't want you to try to get closer to the wall if it means that you have to lose that position in any way. It's perfectly okay to start further away from the wall with shoulders over the hands and hollow body. With time, you'll be able to move in as you build more strength, more shoulder range of motion, and more confidence in the upside down position. Even though it may feel more like a handstand position, I really don't want you pushing your shoulders behind your hands. It's also good to video yourself in the beginning because maybe you think you're doing a hollow body position, but you're really not. Some of the most common mistakes I see are piking at the hips and flaring the ribs. Some people will focus too much on the posterior pelvic tilt cue. And you can see this is a bit of a two-rounded position. I need to bring my hips closer to the wall. And to do this, you just simply think of doing a hip thrust action. Not tucking any more from the pelvis, but just hip thrust towards the wall. And this brings everything straight into alignment. The other one is tucking the hips under, but the ribs are still flared. Shift the weight into the shoulders. Pull your ribs in towards your spine as best you can, and recognize that you may be doing too advanced of a variation for you at this moment. Some extra details you can start working on as you build a little bit more comfort in this position is external rotation of the shoulders and your breathing. External rotation of the shoulders is pretty straightforward, so screwing your hand into the floor. Make sure this doesn't lead to you turning your hand to the side. I generally recommend starting with your index finger facing forwards on the floor. And there can be some variance in this, but index finger forwards, not turned in or turned out. With the index finger forwards, I externally rotate, twisting my shoulders to the side, really lock them into position. Next up is breathing. One of the challenges you'll face later on in a handstand is maintaining tension while still breathing. A lot of the drills for handstands in the beginning are about maintaining tension so that we can control from our hands as much as possible. If everything's rigid, then we can control just from our hands. But this sometimes leads to people holding their breath and not knowing how to move air in and out while staying very tight and rigid through the abdomen. I can keep myself very rigid and still speak at the same time. I can still breathe normally because I've done a lot of practice with this, but this is not easy for many people to do. So you can use the chest to wall as a breathing exercise as well. The squeeze we're looking for from the abdomen is not pulling the stomach in, it's pressing out. The two mental images I give people are as if you're going to take a punch or if you're constipated. These both force you to press your abdomen out, and that's what we want to do initially in the handstand. And while you're maintaining that pressure, you start by making just small, shallow breaths that probably aren't even meeting your breathing needs. But that's step one, just to get used to moving air in and out. With time, you can create that rigidity and still be able to breathe as fully as you need. Later down the track, you don't need to worry about this at all because you will be capable of balancing and only holding as much tension as needed. But in the beginning, it makes it a little bit more simple if you tend to holding a bit more tension in the position. So while I'm in my handstand position, I externally rotate my shoulders. I have my hollow body, my shoulders are forwards over my hands. I press my abdomen out so it's quite rigid and just work on small, shallow breaths. If you can see your abdomen moving on a video, this means you are not maintaining that tension. It should stay very still. The closer you move into the wall, the better, as long as you can maintain shoulders over hands, hollow body from shoulder to toe. Now, it's not uncommon for people to be unable to hold 30 seconds with some variation on the wall in the beginning. There are a variety of different reasons for why you may not be able to, but it actually doesn't matter. We still just take a step back and work our chest to wall handstand on a box instead. This is perfectly fine. Just pick the appropriate variation that you can do, holding for 30 seconds at least. Instead of climbing up the wall, place your toes on the box, and everything else is exactly the same. I've got my hollow body position, my shoulders are over my hands, and I externally rotate my shoulders and hold. It may just be an elevated plank position, but it's a stepping stone that can gradually increase in height and bring you to the wall. We have some people who just simply start in a plank with their feet on the floor because even that's unstable. It wouldn't be appropriate to start working handstand work at this point, so they need to start somewhere. And if we're working on chest to wall, they can start on the floor and over weeks and months gradually build themselves up higher until they are able and comfortable to move into the chest to wall on the wall. The same points apply, no need to change anything. Make sure you're holding for 30 seconds, building up to 60 seconds. A good target to build to, if you're serious about getting your handstand, is to build up to 60 seconds of chest to wall handstand for 5 sets with 1 minute of rest in between each set. This is likely too much to do in the beginning. Try to start with 3 sets of 30 seconds, and each time you do it, or each week, try to increase how much time you're holding for. So that's where you start with your chest to wall handstand. It's a really important piece that a lot of time will be spent with in the beginning. It's not the most exciting necessarily, but it helps you build awareness of the position you're trying to hold, a bit more confidence and strength in the overhead position, and gives you a lot of time to work on things like the shoulder rotation, the breathing, and it's really the first goal you should have as far as getting comfortable in an inverted position. That's all for today. If you have any questions, just leave us a comment or send us a message. If you're interested in a bit more personalized guidance, send us an email inquiring about online coaching.